My name is Sally Mott, and I'm a race car driver, entrepreneur, and business owner. And this is the Fans View podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View podcast. From karting in Texas to competing on one of the biggest development stages in racing, today's guest journey has been fast, fearless, and very real. You may recognize her from the Prime Video docuseries First to Finish, where the highs, lows, and pressure of chasing a racing career were all on display. Today, we're diving into her journey, the lessons she's learned in real time, and what's next as she continues to climb that motorsports ladder. Please welcome to the show, Miss Sally Mott. Sally, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So excited to have you on. Let's just start here. There's no better place to start. When people see you now racing in the MX-5 Cup, it looks like things are moving fast, but what does the journey feel like from your perspective?
Journey. Well, MX-5 Cup is definitely, I'd say totally unbiased, but some of the most competitive racing, sports car racing definitely in the US, very possible in the world. It's just that close, bumper to bumper racing, and it's super intense. And, my first year, which was first to the finish, that was my rookie year, was like drinking from a fire hose every single weekend, just so much information all at once. And like, I literally after every weekend, I wouldn't be like recovered for, I don't know, it took me like 3 or 4 days, like mentally to be like normal again. It was a lot. And to have the camera crew and be interviewed after every session and, go out there and drive as best as I could. So the question that you asked is, how was the experience as a whole? And I think really like from when I started to when I ended, which I'm not doing it this year, makes me really sad. I might do Martinsville just because it's kind of oval stuff, but like it made me a better driver tenfold. Maybe even more. I learned how to qualify, how to set up a lap, right? Bump drafting, how to drive a race car fast, and not just any race car, but a car that's like really hard to drive. And these cars are, you might look at it and be like, oh, it's a Miata. How hard could it be? We have some IndyCar guys. We had Ben Keating one year, 2-time Le Mans winner. Just like, these very big names, St. Pete, I think we had an ex-Formula One driver, and then we had Earl Bomber, we had Sebastian Bourdais. They jump in the car, and, they're running like 10th place, which is still respectable, but like they're not going to just jump in and win because the series regulars have the cars figured out because they're just funky. They have these rear bushings in the back that make it pretty numb. The car could take a set and you don't feel it at all. And then next thing you know, you're headed towards a wall. Then there's power steering, which is like great, but it takes away a lot of the feeling through the wheel. So if you are brand new to the series and you jump in, you're used to like Spec Miata, for example, getting all the force feedback through the wheel, that's now taken away from you. And then there's ABS. And so they're just quirky little cars. So I don't know. I feel like I can jump in anything now, like GT4 cars, the late models, and I'm instantly comfortable. Just because I did 2 years in MX-5 Cup, and it's like, oh, you want me to, push this guy or get really close to the bumper? Pff, no problem. Like, you should see how we race in MX-5 Cup, right? You can't win unless you're doing that. So the journey was really hard. I would say my rookie year was probably the hardest one. Well, I can confidently say it was one of the hardest years of my entire life. But coming out on the other end of it, it was worth it for sure. It was just a lot of lessons compacted into 1 year.
Right.
And it was, it's a fire hose every weekend. It's so much. I loved it. It was great. And then first to the finish got to capture a lot of that. And you could see like, there was moments where I made mistakes and I cried a lot and I was emotional because I treated every race like it was going to make or break my career, which was probably not the best mindset to have. It was just, I don't know. Having a show is cool, but it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch yourself. But I did learn a lot from watching myself, So that's a long answer to a short question, but there's lots.
Well, no, for sure. And we're definitely going to talk about more first to finish stuff. That's kind of why I let off with that. And we're going to get back to your roots and how you came up. But I do want to ask you, because you mentioned it, obviously not running an MX-5 Cup right now. You've obviously been involved in a lot of different disciplines. What's 2026 looking like for you? What are you in right now?
Yeah, 2026 is like a complete change of like even, when I started racing, it was always right turns and left turns and go-karts. I never really was like, yeah, I'm going to go the NASCAR route. That was never something that I just didn't sit on the couch and watch NASCAR races. I always watched Formula 1. So, actually the show, I said it's great for reflecting on how I wanted to be as a driver and stuff, but it also changed the directory of my whole career because I've never had anything filmed on Prime Video. I've never had anything to that level come out. So I had no idea like, what should I expect from this? My ideal scenario was when the show comes out, I'm going to have sponsors knocking at my door wanting to throw money at me. That's what I thought, all right? I was like, I'm going to be able to sell the fact that I'm on this show. I'm going to be able to be like, "Hey, you want, a spot on my car? You want to work with me? I'm about to be on, Prime Video." Like I had
Yeah,
plans. I was like, if I can't sell this, then I don't think this sport is for me. Like this is the best opportunity ever. And if I can't make it happen, I just don't know if I'm in the right spot. So fast forward to March. Well, actually, yeah, this time last year, the show came out and I was like, all right, great. It was a great hit. It made it to the homepage. It was number 2 trending in the sports category. It did amazing. We had a lot of social media coverage and my following increased, like all the things, right? All
right.
the things except for the money. Those things are great, but they don't pay the bills. So I was like, okay, I'm still struggling to find the sponsorship. And unfortunately, I don't come from, a family of billionaires and, people who can fund my racing career. My dad was kind of like, listen, I've helped get you to this point. From now, you have to find the sponsorship to keep yourself in the seat. So, I mean, I appreciate it more and I have to grind and hustle for it. So, with that, I was kind of counting on the show bringing in some more money. And it's hard. Lot like general population of America doesn't really watch sports car racing. A big chunk of them do, but more people watch NASCAR and F1. F1's like a worldwide thing, and in the US it's more NASCAR. And so I was like, well, if I'm struggling right now with the whole show on Prime Video, and most drivers can't say they have that, right?
Absolutely.
A docu-series on Amazon, and come on, it's amazing. And it was an amazing opportunity. The only thing that I struggled with was finding the money. So I kind of had to like have a sit down conversation with myself, my dad, and people in my circle, and be like, well, I think I should go somewhere else because my ultimate goal in this sport is to become a household name, be sustainable, and make money. Because at the end of the day, this is a career, right?
Absolutely.
You make money in your career. You don't mortgage your house,
That's the goal.
hopefully. And I'm like, I can't go broke. I can't go broke doing this. Like I love it, but I just don't want to. I want to be smart. And to make money, you gotta go where the money and the exposure and the eyeballs are, which happens to be NASCAR right now. And that's my personal opinion. I feel like there's more opportunities for me. Some people disagreed with me and they're like, you need to be an MX-5 Cup. This is for your 3rd year. You're going to start winning. And I'm like, because it took me 2 years and I feel like I finally started getting the flow. I got a top 5 at Martinsville and I started qualifying really well. And I was like, dang, my 3rd year is probably going to be like my breakout year. But I needed to take the next step to, further my career in a way that I thought the money would come more easily. And I thought that was NASCAR. So this year I'm doing late models. I'm doing late models at like, Hickory, Tri-County in this area. I just moved my entire life from Texas to Mooresville, North Carolina, because I'm the type of person who's like, I'm going to go all in if I'm going to do something. And it's kind of like I'm the girl with no plan B. So I might as well be in the middle of it all, right?
I love it.
Yeah,
I
like
love sink or swim. Sink or swim. I respect
my,
it. I mean,
that's a
it
Shea
takes
Holbrook quote.
it takes courage to put yourself out there, and it sounds like you have jumped in the deep end with no floaties on. So
That's how it feels.
take me back to the beginning. What's the earliest memory of being around racing that you have?
The earliest memory, probably going to my dad's street course race in a go-kart, watching from the sidelines with my grandparents, trying to wave at him. And he's in the race, right? He's driving. And I kept waving at him every lap and he didn't wave back. And I was like, what the heck? That's so mean. But now I get it. You better be focused on the track. And then I think he won that race and I got to stand on the podium with him. So that was my earliest memory of racing. My dad was just into it. And that's kind of the reason why I'm here.
It was just in the household, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. At what point did it go from, because obviously, like you said, you grew up in a racing household, basically. At what point did it go from, this is fun, to, I might actually be pretty good at this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started like driving when I was 8, kind of at, just fun days. Me and my dad, we'd have days where we'd just hit the track, whatever. He'd let me go run around. He just wouldn't let me drive the wrong line just in case, in case I wanted to go to him and say, "Hey, I want to do this for real. Like, let's go race." Because he wanted a boy, and he was gonna be Fast Freddy, or if it was a girl, Mustang Sally, which he got a girl. And I always joke with him, but he's like, "No, it's the best blessing ever that you ended up being a girl, right?" So I would drive around. I thought it was pretty fun. And then my dad was like, "Well, do you want to like race for real?" And I don't know. I was 8 years old. I was a girl. I was like kind of intimidated that it was all dudes everywhere. Like it's a male dominated sport. And I was, for some reason in my mind, I was like, no, I'm scared to race against the boys. But then we'd go concession karting, like we'd go to like K1 Speed. And I mean, that's racing, but it's more of like a public thing. And I would enjoy it so much. I had so much fun. My dad's like, he's like, "What's the difference? Like, come on, like, let's go racing for real." And I was like, no, 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 no. So then I turned 15 and like I had like this mindset change where I was like, what am I doing? Like I look around and all my friends are in the traditional sports, volleyball, softball, just stuff that everybody did. And I was like, well, my dad's doing racing and that's pretty cool. Like I should take him up on that offer. So I did my first race in go-karts, professional race, whatever you want to call it, and got taken out my first green flag ever, just by someone who wasn't in my class, first corner of the race, like right away. And then
Naturally.
yeah, I know, right? Imagine. Uh, and then the first 10 minutes of the car ride home was silent. My dad was like, well, like, does she like it? Does she not? And then I piped up and I was like, that was pretty fun. We should keep doing that. So fast forward, did that for about, 2 to 3 years. My third year, I'd won a couple championships, broken track records. And I was like, that was the moment for me where I was like, I could really see myself doing this as a career. Like I enjoy this. I'm having fun. It doesn't feel like work. And at that time it wasn't work. It was a hobby. But I was
Right.
like, this is something I could really see myself doing, right? And then from that point I was like, well, money is a big thing. We got to get sponsors. Sponsors don't really care about go-karting. They don't want to see their logo on a go-kart. It's more in the car stuff. So that's when I moved up to Spec Miata, and that's when like the flip switched of I'm taking this serious and this is work now. And I started building my social media, my branding and all that stuff. And that's when I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. And I need to figure it out. I'm not going to go to college because I'm going to pursue this full time, because it is a full-time job. You got to do all the stuff off track, right?
100%.
And that's when that was the moment. I was like, I'm all in. No plan B.
I love it. Karting teaches the fundamentals, but what did it teach you mentally, maybe, that you still hold on to this day, driving, like you said, Spec Miatas and MX-5 and now late models? What have you carried from your karting career?
Good question. And I think like the reason why most drivers, if you look at all F1 drivers and most sports car guys, and even some guys in NASCAR, they all start in karting because it's where
Yeah.
you build the foundation and you learn the fundamentals there, right? I would say, I mean, you could say how to drive a car fast. I mean, that's a basic answer. But then when you get at cars, you have to add on the fact that there's suspension, there's actual like roll. You're learning how to transfer the weight. Whereas a go-kart, you don't have that. Then you have the shifting, which you don't have that in a kart. But like, I could say that, which is meh. But I'd say for me, like the biggest thing was probably the racecraft and
Mm-hmm.
like an overarching thing, the life lessons. Because racing, like a lot of it transfers to life. I don't know. There's so many, like I could spend a whole podcast going over all the life lessons I've learned, especially like doing it with my dad and stuff, but kind of just like the empowering life lesson that I've learned that's probably stuck with me the most is like, if they can do it, you can do it. My dad would always say like, that guy's not Superman. If he can go in there and do all the things and go that fast, you can too. Like you have the mind for it, you physically able to do it, just go out there and do it. And work hard and do all the things you need to do to put yourself in the right places. So aside from racing specific, like the life lessons for sure, and then racing specific, I'd probably say the racecraft, because in karting, it's what I did was 206, which is 4-stroke, so it's slower. It's a momentum base, which is similar to a Miata, but you have to bump draft to be fast, just like MX-5 Cup. So it's like a high speed chess game, as they say, and first to the finish. But like you have to think one step ahead. So, if it's the white flag lap and you're going for first place and you're battling with second place, you got to make sure you defend the right places to set up the right pass and get it done at the end. And I learned a lot of lessons the hard way where I maybe gave it away on the last lap and got second. And then, my dad got really mad, and it was the whole 2-hour drive home was him yelling at me and me crying. And, like you got to learn. You learn those lessons in karting, so you don't have to learn them the more expensive way in
I
karting.
was just about to say, when there's a lot of money involved. Yes,
Yeah, or,
absolutely.
hopefully you're going to do this, but, as you make the transition from cars, but you're going to crash. Like, you're going to spin out, you're going to do those things. hopefully you learn it in the lower levels so it's less expensive. And as you move up, you do it less, right? But yeah, I mean, I'd say overall, those are kind of the main things that I've taken. And I think it's important. Like, if you could build the perfect driver from, Max Verstappen started driving when he was 2 years old, right? That as early as possible, I would start always, 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 always start them in go karting for those reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you. Yeah, watching this right now. I see you. If you're enjoying what you're watching, I've got one quick favor to ask, and it only takes a second, costs you nothing, and makes a huge difference. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, maybe drop a comment. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't seem like much, but for small creators, it's everything. So let's help more people find this channel and keep the content coming. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the podcast will be really grateful. So if you're having fun, you like what you see, make it official, click those buttons, and the Fans View podcast, we'll see you next time.
You kind of just touched on it. That transition from karts to cars, is where a lot of drivers get tested. What was the hardest adjustment for you, and how long do you think, did it take for you to get comfortable?
Well, when I started taking racing serious, I went and I sold my Kia Forte, which was an automatic, and I bought a spec Miata. Well, not a spec Miata, NC Miata. I think it was a 2001, and no, it was 2011. Sorry. And so I would practice shifting every single day. Right, this is my daily driver. I would practice heel towing at every stoplight, every stop, so that when I got in the car, it felt more natural, because that was one thing you have to learn is how to shift, how to use a clutch, the H pattern, how to downshift properly. So you got to heel toe. And then you have to learn the weight transfer, because now instead of just driving like a chassis, like a go-kart's just a chassis, it's just a plate, right? There's no suspension. So now you've added another layer where you have to deal with suspension as well. For me, the shifting came natural. The heel towing, that I had no problem with that because I drove that every day. And that was part of the plan, is like, get that out of the way so you don't have to learn that.
Right, one less thing to worry about.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like, if you want to be a driver, you do that. Like, there's a lot of drivers who, once they started in cars, they just got a daily driver that was a manual. The biggest issue for me was the weight transfer. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't wrap my head around it. For probably 8 races, I spun out. And I started at like a local level. So it was no big deal, right? Like, that was like the ideal place to learn. It was a local track. I don't know, probably 20 guys, older gentlemen drivers who were just, having fun. It was a hobby. So it was a perfect like playground for me to whatever, spin out if I needed to. Like, there's nothing to hit. But of course, my dad and I were taking it seriously. So whenever I did that, it was not good. But it's what I needed to figure out what the heck I was doing. And so then my dad would jump in the car. He'd set a fast lap. I'd jump in, try to beat it. And then we'd take my street car on the track, and my dad would drive it, take me out for like hot laps and be like, this is what it's supposed to feel like, without spinning out. We got to find the limit and the edge. And then after probably 10 weekends, I was like, all right, I kind of have a grasp on it. And then after that, I won the scholarship for MX-5 Cup. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going racing in IMSA. I'm not ready for this. And then they shot a whole TV show. And I was like, that's how little experience I had. I barely just got like, figuring out like how to not spin out, like how to dance on the edge in a car, because it's so much.
Here you go, Prime Video right here. Let's change your life overnight.
And that's why I was like, I have to treat every race like it's going to make or break my career, because I just felt like I didn't have as much experience as the people I was racing with. So I had to fast forward everything in such a short amount of time. So I worked my ass off. And, when shit went wrong and I took out, say Woody Hyman, right, at Laguna, I was devastated. I was crying and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is going to ruin everything. And I don't know, it kind of lit a fire under my ass to just get there sooner, which is like, some people don't have that because they start so young. They're like, no, I'm good enough. I don't have to work hard. So it's like, if you have a lack of skill, which it's not like I lack of skill, just a lack of experience, but like your work ethic is up here, I feel like you could get to the same place. That was kind of my mentality about it.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of already answered my next question, about how first to finish came to you, obviously through the scholarship and the Mazda program and whatnot. I guess my question, I would put it to you this way. You said it's hard to watch first to finish, looking back and seeing yourself. Would you call first to finish, even though maybe, the sponsorships didn't roll in like you thought they would, and things didn't maybe land quite like you thought they would, but do you still consider first to finish and your rookie year, with MX-5 Cup and all of that, do you consider it a net positive?
For sure, definitely. I say these things like I'm complaining and stuff, but I wouldn't be right here right now if it wasn't for that. And the fact that it did not bring me all the things I thought it would, like in terms of the sponsorship, I thought was a good thing because it forced me to change directions. Am I making the right decision right now? I have no idea. I'll know in a year, maybe 5 years, if I was supposed to go to NASCAR. And if I was, I'm like, well, it's a good thing I didn't make money, selling sponsorships because of the show. Because then I would have stayed right where I was. That might have worked out, but I don't know. I'm a big believer of everything happening for a reason.
Yeah.
But it definitely did. I got tons of exposure. I go to the racetrack now and like people recognize me and they're like, "Hey, Sally." I'm like, "Hey, you." Yeah, I don't know these people, but they know me because they watch the show. It got my face out there. It got my name out there. It elevated my brand. It forced me to kind of like figure out who I was, who I wanted to be, and what my thing was. I think every driver to set themselves apart needs to be like, what's your thing? I figured out the pink car works. People like it. It's me. It stands out. And it kind of does what I like. My goal is to, when I become a household name and I make it and all the things, right? I want to make a driving school for female drivers, like young girls getting into it, whether it's the open wheel ladder, the sports car, or NASCAR, and kind of help bring more females into it. And so when I'm at the racetrack, I get a lot of like dads with their families approach me and they're like, "Hey, my daughter, your car is my daughter's favorite car. Can she sit in it? Can she feel it out like you're her favorite driver?" And like that's my favorite thing. And that's one of the reasons why I kept doing that with my car and my brand is keep it pink because it attracts the younger girls. And when they sit in the car, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like you drive, this is so cool." And then they tell their dad, "I want to go karting." And like that is where you start. And that's how we get more badass female drivers. Start them young in karting, let them work their way up so we can get some more drivers who are winning. We need more female drivers who are winning.
I'm telling you, you're as good at segues as you are at driving because that was my next question. You're part of that wave of women that's coming up in racing right now, whether it be at the top tier with your Tody Bridingers, your Haley Deegans, or your Taylor Reimers, your Logan Miserakas, your Quinn Davises. How do you personally approach that conversation? I know I've spoken to a lot of those women on the podcast, and it's very important for them to be known as a good race car driver and not a good female race car driver. But where do you stand in that whole thing?
I mean, my mindset has always been I'm not here to be the best female driver. I'm here to be the best, period. And one of my sayings in the show that's like what I stick to is when the helmet goes on, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter, if there's the chaos outside, if people are like, "Oh my God, that's a girl in the car." It doesn't matter. When the helmet goes on, you're there to do one job and one job only, and that is to win or get as close as possible to it, right? So I'm in the same boat as all of them. I mean, I saw Jade Advedisian's commercial with Toyota, and she's like, "They say I'm fast for a girl." She's like, "I'm fast, period." I'm like, yes. Totally on the same page. I agree. And I think that's what needs to be promoted more.
Absolutely. It's obviously it's cool to be a beacon for those little girls, but like you said, at the end of the day, you put the helmet on, you strap in. That car doesn't have a gender, so what's it matter what the driver inside's gender is really?
Exactly.
When you look at the next few years, and I know this question changes with the wind, so I'm just going to ask you today on March 24th, as we record this, what does the ideal path look like for you over the next few years?
Ideal path. I do a year in late models, get as many wins as possible. I need to show up. It's my first year. I need to make an impression, right? I would love to pick up a manufacturer. I would, Chevy and Toyota are very, very involved in this area right now. And my biggest thing right now is the sponsorship, right? And I know manufacturers, once they support you, that's a huge win. So get the attention of a manufacturer, have them back me. Either I do 1 or 2 years in late models, then I'd love to work my way up to ARCA and then trucks and then the O'Reilly series and then ultimately be the first female driver to win a cup championship. But as you know, the higher you work your way up through those ranks, the more expensive it gets, like into the millions. And
yes.
MX-5 Cup is not quite in the millions. So I know how to get, chunks of money here and there. I'm getting better at it. I'm not the best at it. But as those numbers get higher, that's going to be another challenge for me. But I also think the more that I'm winning, those doors open up, right?
Yes, for sure.
If you pick up Chevy or Toyota or, a manufacturer to support you, that also gets you in the seat more often, opens up more opportunities. Ultimate goal, get as many wins as possible this year and then kind of see where it takes me. But I want to get an ARCA as soon as possible so then I can then get into trucks and then O'Reilly and then Cup.
I love it.
The time it takes, I don't know.
So
we'll see.
So stock car, as of right now, stock car is the plan. That's where you want to keep your focus.
Yes. And then the goal is to make money. Like I want to be not, in the negatives when it comes to getting myself in the seat. I want to be at some point not paying a single dime to be racing. And then a step above that is actually getting paid to race. And then if I want to go race in the 24 hours of Le Mans, I can fund myself, I can do these things. I can create a school for female drivers. I can dump money into that because I'm making money. And then I'm also racing at the same time. So
Absolutely.
Sustainability, that's the goal.
That's the name of the game. I love it. Well, before we let you go, Sally, and this has been fantastic. I smell a part 2 coming for sure. I have to ask you my 2 favorite questions. The first of which being, obviously, you're a very young woman. You've got a long career ahead of you. At this point in time, in both life and your career, how do you define success?
I would say success is doing what you love and making a living out of it and it not feeling like work every day. Being motivated. It's hard to be motivated when you don't like what you do, but if you like what you do, the motivation comes easy and you're just out there having fun and it's not work. It's just fun. You're enjoying your life, yeah.
Yeah, getting paid to rip laps sounds pretty good to me. And last but not least, this is the Fans View podcast, so I have to ask everyone, outside of racing, because obviously you're a race fan, but outside of racing, what are you a fan of?
I don't watch
absolutely nothing.
I don't watch any other sports besides racing, to be honest. I'm a big music person. I'm a huge fan of I like pretty much every genre except for a couple. I have a couple TV shows I like to watch. Typically, like before I got into racing, I was very creative. I'd paint and draw all the time. We're into arts and, artsy stuff. Aside from racing, I'm a huge car person, but that's kind of like similar.
Yeah.
So I don't know, music, cars. Honestly, racing has taken up a lot of my personality. So yeah, I need to be better about that.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to false you forward. It seems to be working out pretty well so far. Well, Sally, let people know where can fans get a hold of you? Where can they reach out to you on social media? And then B, more importantly, let's signal boost this thing. Where can sponsors reach out to you if they want to, slap a logo on that car?
Yeah. SallyMottRacing.com. It's where I sell my merch. It's where I post all my stuff. Instagram and Facebook are my main things. I also do LinkedIn. Sally Mott Racing everything. Instagram, Sally Mott, Facebook, Sally Mott Racing on LinkedIn. And then, sponsorship wise, that would be reach out to me, send me an email. All of that is on my website as well. Or give me a text, give me a call. But you can definitely reach me through my website, SallyLaunerMott@gmail.com. That is my email. Happy to have discussions about these things. I don't like to sell just my car because I have so much other assets that I can offer in terms of sponsorship. But that's the gist of it. Those are my handles.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I mean, if you have the money, go support, Sally monetarily, whether it be through sponsorship, businesses, all that fun stuff. Go buy a t-shirt, go support her that way. If not, head out to Hickory or Tri-County or wherever she might be running late models here this year and go support her that way. And at absolute minimum, go hit the follow button because that's free 99 and it helps everybody. When you're done following Sally, head on over to the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff for the YouTube. Oh, and the YouTube channel for the Fans View podcast. Give us some love. People helping people. That's a beautiful thing. And don't forget, guys, most importantly, at the end of the day, call your mom.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.